All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Reeves. For those of you who don't know me, I believe I'm familiar with most of you. With me today is Jose Gomez. As of yesterday, our Director of Client Success. Just from yesterday. Well, unfortunately, Haley is sick today, so she wasn't able to join us. But I believe most of you work primarily with Jose and myself anyway, and moving forward, we'll continue to be your partners in that regard. So we appreciate you having us here today. And when we were first asked to, or given this opportunity rather, we tried to kind of customize each one of these lunch and learns to that particular management company. So what we do is we go back through all the RFPs and work orders we've received from you guys over the last year or two. And we kind of try to look for trends. And a big one that stuck out to us was dry rot, both big and small work orders and larger projects. So we thought that this would be a big opportunity to come in and educate you guys a little bit deeper on that subject. So a couple of topics we're going to go over is just basic understanding what it is, the climate that it thrives in, effective communication with your board and how to educate your board on these issues and suggestions to them, as well as prevention and remediation. And a quick note, if you are taking notes, we like to do giveaways at the end of these, so make sure you're paying attention. So today's giveaway is a bottle of Amici, so make sure you take notes. And with that was it.
Okay, so first things first, to understand the dry rot, I believe that you already reached out to us for some inspections, for some repairs, either inspected by pest control, but we can also do visual inspections. Because so on the visual, what we do, there's different ways to notice dry rot, like fading paint. There's some cotton-like organic growth that you see in them. So it's the basics that we aim for on the visual ones. We also do intrusive inspections. We don't recommend that one all the time because you're going to be poking wood, and if you didn't have any damage, then we're going to cause it. And of course, you're going to end up sealing them again when there was no need. So we really go for the visual one. We also use moisture meters just to make sure that the moisture in it, and there's no moisture in it, even if you don't see it. And we also do temperature. We measure the temperature on them because it's going to be different from the solid wood, the dry wood, and the wet one.
On that point, make sure if you do, boards will often opt for a visual because it tends to be cheaper, but make sure whoever does it does use that moisture meter, because if they don't and they just do a visual, it's going to go one of two ways. Either they're going to bid just off of what they see, which is probably going to be an underestimate, or they're going to go extra conservative and overbid by a lot. So even if it's visual, make sure they're using those moisture meters and any other tool to their disposal.
And also, so you know, on the visual, we also take into consideration what's closest to the wood members, because it doesn't necessarily have to be that the moisture is going from the front of the wood or from the top or the bottom. There's also, we consider like masonry work, any concrete that is right next to it. If it's not sealed correctly or it's not painted correctly, it's going to suck all the moisture and get it on the wood. So that's another thing to consider on those, like on decks and all of that. That's, you also very familiar with SB326s. That's one of the part that they're inspecting, to see if there's any moisture underneath, even though you see everything all nice and smooth on the top.
So what is dry rot?
No. Yeah. Oh, so dry rot, it's a form of wood decay. So it's basically any organic growth that it eats all the wood. Doesn't necessarily have to be termites. It's just moisture that stays in the wood that causes all the organic growth. Of course, you're not going to see mildew. You're not going to see the cotton-like organic growth. You're just gonna end up seeing pieces of wood falling off. So, and termites love that. Any wood, any wet wood, they like that. So they thrive there.
And it's just not one type of fungi; it's multiple different types.
Mm-hmm. And you know, also the importance for that, it's because if you don't take care of the trim, siding, all that dry rot on the exterior, it can also travel to the structure. So that you're gonna have framing damage, beam damage. Again, referring back to the decks, you're going to have dry rot, whatever you didn't see it before, so you didn't catch it until it's a little too late.
What about temperature?
So give me 1 second. So dry rot. Again, for temperature, also organic growth thrives on warm temperatures. So you're gonna get the wood wet right now, but when the sun comes out, it starts heating up, it starts steaming. So there's a lot of chances that it's gonna start growing more.
65 to 77 is the ideal temperature for it to thrive at. 65 to 77.
Nice weather.
Okay. So for preventative maintenance, recently we started recommending monthly sidewalks. Of course, these are no charge to the community or to you guys. It's just to pinpoint some certain areas, not necessarily for dry rot, but that's our aim all the time. We actually do those with Dean already. So it's just a regular walk that we do, just a visual. Nothing necessarily going to be to let you know, oh, we need to fix this door. But it's more of a, okay, now you see that this is happening again and again within the property. You have a lot of issues on your fascias. So that's what's going to trigger the whole inspection part.
Even if it's not with us, we recommend that the managers meet with the board, at least one member, at least once a month, just to walk the property. We find the communities that do that find things quicker and avoid those larger price tag projects.
So once you locate them, again, whether it's with us or with someone else, you have to make sure that the repairs are being completed the right way. And like I said about the driver being, if there's like masonry or concrete right next to it, if it wasn't sealed properly on the back, then you're gonna start getting dry rot and you're not gonna notice it. So it's important to understand that the repairs have to be replacing the wood, prime all sides, and paint.
If you just do a Google search, you'll see stuff on there about spraying fungicide and all that. That's really not necessary, especially most repairs. You just remove the entire affected piece and you just replace it. So some people ask about that, but it's not necessary. You do want to make sure you are priming and painting though.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but just this is important to know too, that there's two different ways that we can approach the driver repairs. Some communities are okay with seeing a little slight cut on the wood because we remove the section that is damaged and replace it. And some of them just prefer to replace the entire area. And the cost is pretty major. There's a big difference on those because obviously you're exposing more members and you're gonna have to waterproof more. So this actually, we got a few photos from one of your communities.
Short point.
Yeah. So actually, yeah. So in those, so this is the type of areas that we. I mean, it's very obvious that you have dry rot there. There's some of them that are not very obvious, like this one on the right. On those, the paint was done right, the installation was done right. It just got some moisture in there, and it has soft spots. So those are the ones that we don't even need to poke on it. You can actually just push it with your finger. It would still consider visual. Same community, different areas. You still have the belly band issue. You still have the window issue. And in this, there's many reasons why it can be there can be dry rot in there. But at this point, we're just aiming to replace the dry rot, right? It could be the window that wasn't sealed correctly. It would be some whip screed in there that was clogged. So there's a lot of issues. But and this one, on the first one on the garage, you can see that the wood is actually coming apart already by itself. And of course, on garages, it's very common that maybe a car hit it, something hit it, just a small tap, and it breaks the paint. It gets moisture from the ground, and there it goes.
I have a question real quick. So you have two surfaces. You have a like a stucco surface and the wood surface. And you were talking about priming, making sure that those concrete or porous surfaces. So say you replace the dry rot, the wood. Should you at that time make a recommendation to your boards to reseal the concrete or the stucco?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily to do it all the time, but we can actually assess it while we're doing inspection for the paint. And of course, on top of that, once we remove the wood, we're going to see if there's further damage or if there's waterproofing, or if you even have a waterproofing issue behind the stucco.
Yeah, no, that was one of my things, is because like garages or things that have that barrier in the back, and then they build the garages off of it, they experience dry rot, but that they are stucco. So
This time of year, especially with rain today, last night, you want to make sure that you don't leave any kind of repairs open. You want to make sure you get those permanent repairs done ASAP.
And so for the inspection report, that's the one that we were talking about, of how we are able to notice if there's dry rot. And again, this inspections, it's not just walking and looking at it from far. We actually have our technicians and inspectors going into detail on every single wood member. And I do have an example of what you're going to be getting. Sorry, this is the proposal for inspection.
A quick note on the visual as well. Those were exterior photos, but if there's dry rot interior, like in a garage or crawl space, you can usually smell dry rot too. Some of a musty smell.
Okay, so I do have an example of what you're going to be getting. So once we complete the inspection, we do have. Let me see.
Are you late?
we are not. Friends having breakfast.
I want to know what kind of candy bar Brent just.
I know, that's what I was just saying, like, if we there's an quick bar. You bring it up. We want to know.
I'm having a Snickers. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the type of report that you're going to get. Once we complete the inspection, it used to take about 2 weeks. Now we're aiming to have it within a week because we're also changing the system. Now we're getting a little more techie on site. So our guys have iPads and the information it's live, it's being sent to us. So, so this is the type of report that you're going to be getting. A nice picture of your community first. The first page is basically going to tell you what we did, how we inspected, when we inspected. The second page is going to tell you what type of compromised components we found. This is going to vary depending on your community. So, for example, some of them have stucco. It's not going to be included in there. Some of them have siding, T111 siding, lap siding, all kinds of sidings. So if we find some damage on specific areas, we're going to call it out in this page. You have 2x4 window trims. So we're very specific on the components that you have. It could be 2x6 in a different community. So that's going to vary. And our recommendations on this one, it's very basic because it has trims and siding. So what we recommend in there is just removing the damaged piece, install waterproofing membrane, paper, and install the new piece that is pre-primed, all sides, and call it a day.
Back up real quick so what's included. So if you do receive a proposal based off of visual inspection, make sure you grill the contractor and include that they're as detailed as possible. Because make sure you call them on that. If it is a visual, you want to make sure that they know exactly what they're including, what they're charging for.
Some of them can tell you, we've seen some proposals of some scopes of work, of some other companies that they just tell you, oh, based on this report, on someone else's report, it's 300,000.
Don't let them get away with generalized.
That's for a breakdown for anyone. And so the next page, it just tells you what components we were talking about. The belly band is this one. The window trims that we mentioned were there. The common trim is this one. More belly band stuff. So on the next pages, it's just going to show you samples of the components that we were talking about before. And now, this is the most important part. With our inspections, you get a matrix. So it's going to tell you which unit and what components were damaged that were found, the linear footage, square footage, or amounts. So quantities. This is the one that the only reason that we provide a matrix for this is because if you want to bid it out, you can definitely use this.
Yeah.
So this is yours,
Apples
it's
to
your
apples.
communities, you're paying for it, so you get all of that and you can bid it out. So again, it's very detailed. If you send this specific matrix to any contractor, they should be able to bid on that. But of course, we're also going to provide a proposal for you.
I love it.
So at the end, based on the matrix, we give you the total linear footage or amount that you have for each member. You have 22 sheets of T111, and that's community wide. You see the units where it is. So that's basically what you should be getting. Whoever inspects it or whoever's give you the proposal for that.
I would suggest never signing a dry rot proposal without a matrix, because it's only going to protect you to have one if there's issues down the line.
I had a question. So you said that there's no charge for the visual inspection that you would do. What's the general charge for this detailed inspection?
It varies, but of course we can still work it out with you guys. Like if you choose us to do the repairs, we also discount the whatever pricing we gave you before. So like this one, I think it was for like 3,000.
Yeah.
So this, I don't know if I told you before, but that's gonna come down. That's
I
gonna
was like, I
be.
think I see her. Like,
Yeah.
It
We're
depends on the
awarded
size
that
of the
project.
community.
So we're awarded the project. That's gonna come out of it.
Oh, nice.
And I think you said that too
Okay.
in your,
Okay.
In writing.
Oh, of course. And again, so it all depends what community it is. So typically we go and walk it just to have a feeling of what it is. If we see that there's really not, if the wood members are looking a second and third story, or you have roofing that has wood, the price is going to be a little higher. As if you have a smaller community, just one floor, one level. So it's going to vary. But I can tell you they're really inexpensive compared to what you're getting. And it also gives you peace of mind to at least know.
Yeah.
There has been a few cases where we do the inspection and we really cannot charge as much. We actually give you it's not a refund.
Discount or credit?
We give you a credit. So we credit back because we really didn't find anything. So let me go back to the PowerPoint now. I think I'm getting a hang of it now.
you spoke too soon.
I know, change himself.
There we go. And so for that is so that's an important part that we were discussing, talking about painting. So painting might seem for some clients, for some boards, like it's just something nice to have to make things look nicer, but it's really sealing your wood. So it's the protection that you're getting with it. That's why it's important to do your painting. Depends on what you're getting, 7, 10 years, typically 5 would be nice. So that's important because of the dry rot. And if you see it a little bit further, it's going to be, so if you do the paint, you're not going to have to worry about dry rot. You're not going to have to worry about framing members or something collapsing. It goes that bad. Preventative roof maintenance, that is also, that goes hand to hand with dry rot as well, because even by sealing some gutters, but by cleaning your gutters or sealing some flashings, that's prevent you from having dry rot. If you see on your communities, you have a lot of fascia boards behind the gutters that are getting dry rotted, and it also extends to the roof.
Last winter really showed which communities were doing preventative maintenance and which ones weren't.
So again, even just one plugged gutter, it can be it's not only that you're going to get some water inside the property, which you can, because you can overflow inside, but you can get dry rot. And again, it just takes one, leave it like that for like 7 days, then clear it. If it wasn't attended, you can start growing. Not necessarily have to, but it can. And so the monthly sidewalks, that's really important to have because you can point out things early. You can see if something is damaged or it's if there's a risk for it to be for you to be concerned about. And again, that would be you with your board. We can also attend. We're happy to assist on any way. So, and most important, it's so the timely dry road repairs. The sooner that you do it, the less risk you're going to have further damage. Again, other damage that is not even dry road related.
And we'll talk about later how fast dry rot can spread.
I got a message that they lost sound.
Oh,
You're on.
no, it's not.
Oh, we're good.
No, Roman says it's all good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Rowan.
Okay.
So we kind of mentioned this one, but the purpose behind those monthly sidewalks, regardless of who it's with, is because a lot of these, if caught early, can just be a simple not to exceed work order or work order versus it spreads and becomes a multi-$100,000 project. So that's really the stress behind getting with your boards consistently, looking for these issues.
So we talked about the importance of painting. It's basically that. It doesn't necessarily have to be just because it looks nice. Whatever you do to it, just a quick code. Even if you want to do it sooner with your communities, just do one code. It's cheap. Just get it done. And again, that's just preventative. If they don't want to do like a community-wide paint, some of them can focus on the most affected areas, which is where the sun hits the most, especially like areas in Hercules, Walnut Creek, and all that close to the ocean, and the sun, it hits it a lot. Deck coatings, again, same thing. That's something that you're not going to be seeing in there, but we do call it out on the dry rod, especially for railings and fascia boards that are underneath that. And so it's a whole separate thing from the SB 326. You're still going to get it with our inspections. And the SB 326 are the ones that you're going into the framing members.
So just as an example here, Jose and I did a site visit down in the South Bay last month, and a whole row of units had a bunch of potted plants out on their patio. And underneath these patios were crawl space storage. And so you had homeowners and some were tenants every day watering their plants. Plus we had winter, that all the rain. Some people would just leave a hose running on that patio. So what happened is all the so water leak. There's a ton of dry rot in that crawl space. It affected the framing members, and the patio is only about this high. And unfortunately, it's gonna be really expensive repairs because it affected the framing. And so this is a deck coating issue because when we were out there, we did a visual, but we did notice that there was some compromised coating as well as waterproofing. So the other decks or patios in the community didn't have that issue. So right now there's a huge fight between the HOA and the homeowners of who's really going to pay for that. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. But these simple things like deck coatings really prevent the framing underneath. Because the last thing you want is that dry rot to hit the framing and affect it and compromise it.
And we were not going to present about windows, but now that you mentioned that, just quickly, I believe with some boards, homeowners are responsible for windows and retrofit stuff and all of that. So once we do the dry run inspection, we are actually going to let you know if there is a retrofit window, because most of the time that is what caused the dry rot or the water intrusion. So if we see that, we'll call it out and let you know.
We actually refuse to install retrofit windows. There's too many issues. But actually, we have another problem. So in Oakland, there's a community, mid-rise building, and the penthouse had a bunch of deck leaks that kind of ruined a bunch of units below. And the thing to keep in mind about deck coatings, this particular board went with a cheaper coating, but different coatings have different load bearing. So the homeowner who used to have a lot of potted plants again, which kind of caused the issue, and some patio furniture and all that, was informed that she could no longer have that out there. So that was a big issue as well. So when you are talking about deck coatings, make sure you know what a homeowner will be able to actually place on it.
There's different types of coating, not necessarily because that was the existing is the correct one. So we actually provided some different recommendations if you want that, or we provide whatever you want us to provide for those. So there's cementatious, there's liquid applied membranes, there's all kinds of stuff. But we'll let you guys know if it comes down to that.
Again, educating your board beforehand will help prevent a lot of issues after the fact.
And so the roof inspection, it's almost the same thing like we do with the dry rot, just a little quicker. Because with roofing, depends what you have, whether it's tile, flat roof, shingles, whatever it is, it's just quicker because we already know what we're looking at. If everything should be uniform, there shouldn't be any delamination, so those are way quicker. We on those, it's a visual. We don't poke, but we actually start lifting and testing certain areas. Single ply membranes, torch down membranes, whatever it is, we start poking on the seams just to make sure that everything's right. And based on that, we provide a recommendation as well.
So a couple of frequently asked questions here. So what happens if dry rot is left untreated? Obviously, not only will it spread into other timbers within the infrastructure of the property, but it will also attack porous masonry, as mentioned earlier, and it absorbs itself into the stone and attacks the structural integrity. So masonry, porous masonry, as well as something to keep in mind and let your boards know about, because a lot of people don't think about that part. How quickly does dry rot spread? So it can spread up to actually a little over 3 inches per day. And it spreads through the air as well. The pores spread through the air, and it takes pores about 7 to 10 days to germinate. So this stuff spreads quickly, which leads to the next question, which is usually asked by homeowners, is can dry rot spread from house to house? Because they're usually looking for someone to blame. And the answer is yes, obviously it can. Anything that's attached to, the 2 units attached, it's going to be easier to spread, but it can spread through the air as well. Again, optimal condition 66 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And then another question that comes up is, are dry rot spores dangerous to health? So I'm not a medical expert, but the spores themselves are not harmful to your health. However, it often indicates damp conditions that the fungus needs to germinate, and can represent a health hazard for certain populations like the young or elderly. It's also a possible indication of organic growth. You can read between the lines there. We are not remediation certified. But okay. And so we usually like to leave a little room at the end for any open discussion, any questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, anything anyone wants to. Yes.
So there's a inspection that you do where you charge like $3,000 or whatever, and that's where the matrix comes from, and then you guys will bid on it and you send it out to other people. But did I hear you say that you'll do a monthly inspection?
So what it is, this started a couple months ago, is a lot of communities have these smaller maintenance items that are so small that they almost don't want to send the contractor out there because we have to charge a minimum trip charge. Most contractors do. So we started offering is called a bundle package, where we'll go out there, walk with your board, point out a bunch of items that are small, and we'll bundle into like one maintenance proposal altogether. We will do monthly site walks free of charge with a board member and a community manager if that's what they want, if they find it helpful. We do that with a number of communities and other management companies as well.
Just so I understand, doing that, because that's like a big commitment for you to go out there once per month and inspect the property. So you're counting on getting enough dry rot repair work to make it worth your while?
So it's not specific to dry rot. So those walks are for anything. But when it comes to dry rot, that's how you catch it sooner. So that's often where you're going to catch it.
Is this like a service that you want to expand upon, or?
Meaning?
What if we said, oh, we got like 50 properties, so what should you do monthly inspections on?
So
on the calendar.
We have the capacity right now. Obviously, at some point, there's only so many of us. But what we found is that some boards can't meet every month, and so it becomes an every other month, or as long as it's planned in advance. Jose and myself, we have another estimator as well.
What's your ideal type of community to take advantage of something like that?
I'm never going to turn something down.
So the inspections, those sidewalks doesn't necessarily have to be like for a proposal or for anything like that. Sometimes it's like, well, it's a one-up issue, $300. That's it. Sometimes we do that because of you. This is because of the managers, because of Collins.
Collins is one of our largest clients. Just
we're gonna get something here. We're not gonna get anything here, but that's fine because we can just work it out, and then we just get it out of the way. Because sometimes we get work orders like we inspect certain thing, we're still gonna do it, so might as well do it with you and call out a lot more things.
Oh, makes sense.
We do get a lot in the numbers of work orders and proposals from you guys, and so
and if the volume goes up too, We do have a lot of project managers that can walk in.
Maybe that's ma'am.
I didn't wanna like,
I'm done.
so you guys do deck coating as well? Like, oh, okay.
The whole rebuild too. We're general contractors actually. So we do roofing,
Okay.
smaller repairs. We can go do a little patch, an emergency. We do emergencies. We can do a little patch. We can do a section re-roof. We can do an overlay. We can do the whole roof. We can do just a patch on the deck, a little coating patch. We can rebuild the whole deck.
We do a lot of it in-house too. That's one difference with us is that we do a lot of these services in-house. There's very few things that we have to subcontract out for.
And that's the thing, because we do have different departments depending on the size and the type of repair. We have our painting department, maintenance department, ER department, construction department, roofing department, and SB 326.
And as of a month and a half ago, we now have some good relationships where we can take on remediation and electrical work as well.
Do you have metal fabrication in-house?
Yep. Actually, we have a shop in the back.
You can do the flashing and everything
Yep.
in-house? Okay.
He uses them to help explain things to me when he comes running in with them.
So I have a question. You had mentioned the roof inspections.
Mhm.
You said something about a maintenance department. Do you do roof maintenance?
Yes, we do.
Like on a semi-annual, annual basis?
And that's highly recommended
Okay.
to prevent leaks, to prevent.
Yeah,
dry
so on one of the properties in Oakland, we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for a new vendor for that, so I'll send an RFP.
All right, thank you.
When you say maintenance, like, what do you mean, like, in terms of maintenance, like gate latch repair?
It's,
Like,
so it goes, there's two. So it goes by cost of project one. So anything under 25,000 typically is a maintenance project, but it extends to small repairs and
So
interior
for maintenance, like,
repairs.
whatever request that you have, we'll assign it to the department. But if it's like a gate, we'll take care of that. If it's welding, whatever that is, we'll take care of that. And like roof maintenance, what she was referring to, it's mostly like see that the waterproofing is still right, everything's sealed, there's no missing shingles, there's no open gaps, the gutters are clean, so all of that. Just
It's a
preventative
flat
maintenance.
roof, so you do flat roof.
Oh, even better.
Okay, even better.
That's okay.
Okay.
And our maintenance department can handle volume. To give you an idea, last winter from December through March, we took on over 250 work order / yard calls a month. A lot of those from you guys in this room. So they are built to handle volume. It's a very high volume department, but they do well handling it.
Thank you.
All right, so challenge question, whoever shouts it out first. Yes, question?
She's getting her.
Oh. Whoever shouts out first, what's the ideal temperature for dry rot to run? I don't know.
I didn't even have that one.
All right, how fast can dry rot grow a day?
3 inches.
Well, we appreciate you guys having us here today. There's food in the
Thank you for the
kitchen.
information.
And thank you to everyone online as well. We appreciate you being here with us.
And we'll also send you